Hello everyone and welcome to my review of Destruction Derby on the PlayStation 1. The game was developed by Reflections, published by Psygnosis, and it was released in 1995 on the Sony PlayStation and MS-DOS formats, and in 1996 on the Sega Saturn. The game itself is based on real-life demolition derby racing, and that's pretty much it. The gameplay is not just about crossing the finishing line in first place, but it's actually based on scoring points. The more points you score deems the position that you actually finish in the race in the final analysis. So it's important that you wreak out as much destruction as you possibly can on your fellow competitors in a race. There are a number of game modes, and these are as follows. There's wrecking racing, and this is where points are awarded on your player's position and also the damage that you inflict on other opponents. So again, it's not just enough to take off in the lead in the race and just win the race itself. You will get some points, but you actually need to accrue points in the race by hitting other cars. And this is not as easy as it sounds, which I'll come to in a little bit. It's not just about hitting cars. You have to hit them in a specific way, but I'll come to that a little bit later on. The next game mode is stock car racing. Now this is more just a straightforward racing game where the main points are awarded depending on where you finish on the track. So although you can hit other cars and so on and so forth, you won't get as many points as you will by finishing in, say, in first place. This is a pretty much more conventional racing mode. There's then the Destruction Derby mode, when this takes place in a big bowl, a big arena, and points are awarded for you taking out as many of the opponents as possible. This isn't as easy as it sounds because everybody's just gunning for everyone. You all start on the edge of the bowl and you all just go flying towards the middle and end up in one almighty crash, and then it's just trying to dish out punishment to the other cars whilst trying to look after your own to make sure that you don't get wrecked as well. So it's not really as easy as it sounds, but it's a great deal of fun. And the last game mode is time trial, and this doesn't really serve much in the way of a purpose aside from just allowing you to get used to the layout of the tracks really. But aside from that, it doesn't really do anything. There is a main game mode which is the championship mode, because when you essentially start the race you can go into like quick races, just sort of standard one-off races, but then there is actually a championship mode which is the main bulk of the game, and this is split into 5 divisions, and the objective is to get promoted from each division into the one above and eventually then to win the championship by winning the first division. This is where the main challenge lies, and as I say, you have to sort of balance the game, how you play in it, between winning races and also dishing out the damage, which is now how I'll come to tell you how you actually score points. As I said earlier, you don't score points just by hitting the car in front of you or next to you. What you have to do is you have to cause the car to spin, and this means you have to hit the car either really in the front or rear section at a particular point in the track and actually make it spin, and you get various points based on how many degrees the spin is. Now this is quite effective on one hand, but on the other hand sometimes it can be a bit of a pain in the backside. The actual point system I think is flawed. You don't always get points. You can spin a car and sometimes you just don't get any points for it. Now this can get quite frustrating because hitting a car also damages your own car, so you can't just go around the track hitting everything willy-nilly. You have to actually plan the points where you're going to hit a car. Now usually it's going to be early on in the race while your car's still in its best condition, because as the race goes on and people are hitting you and you're hitting them, as you can see in the bottom right corner there's a condition indicator with a number of, at the moment, sort of green tags on it. Now as you go around, as you get hit, those green tags gradually turn to yellow and then they eventually turn to red, showing that there's significant damage there. if any of the key areas turn to black, now the key areas are the two right at the front, two either side of the front wing, and the same at the rear, then the car becomes damaged and you're wrecked, so your race is effectively over. So it gets really frustrating when you hit a car clean on, you cause them to spin but you don't get awarded the points. However, the damage is still registered on your car. So that's one real drawback to the game, and sometimes, as I say, it can make it really frustrating. And in the championship mode, it's really important to get the points, because the more points you get, obviously the further up the league, the particular league that you're in, you'll finish. So it can be the difference between going through an entire season and being promoted, and going through an entire season and missing out, and it can cause quite a degree of frustration. And it's a mechanic that really, on paper, works well, and it does work most of the time in the game. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it doesn't work at all, but there are some instances in the game when it just doesn't work, and that, I'd say, that causes the frustration, particularly in this game mode now, which is the Destruction Derby one, because spinning the car is pretty much the only way you're going to get points. So as I say, it can lead to a bit of frustration, but it's certainly not game breaking. There are a number of tracks in the game. The first one being the Speedway. Now this is just a basic oval circuit. Then there's the Crossover, which is a figure 8 circuit, whereby that can be quite a lot of fun because you can get some really nasty pile-ups going on there. There's Cactus Creek, which has hairpins, crossovers and long straights. Ocean Drive, which has hairpins and narrow stretches. City Heat, which has tight turns, long stretches and narrow sections on the track. Now the narrow sections on the track are where the track actually, as you can see here, just sort of, it's almost like not really like a chicane, but it just sort of closes in so that you can get some really good pile-ups there if you get like 3 or 4 cars or trying to get through that section. The Bowl, which you just saw, which is the Destruction Derby track, and then the Monastery. Now this is awarded for finishing first in Division 1, and the track has lots of little kinks and hairpins and has a nice little tunnel in there as well. And that's pretty much it. Again, I mean, this was one of the first titles released on the PlayStation. In fact, I think it may have been a launch title, if my memory serves me. And it was one of the games that when I saw running back in 1995, when I went into a game shop and I actually saw the PlayStation running with this game as a demo, it was one of the games that I thought, wow, I've simply got to get this console. I mean, the graphics are no great shakes now, but imagine going from the Sega Mega Drive and seeing graphics like this based on the graphics that were on the Sega Mega Drive. It was just in a completely different category altogether. I mean, it was just it was like the reinvention of the wheel almost. And there was both this and Wipeout that caught my eye, and this is the first of the reviews I'm going to do. The next one I'm going to be doing this week is going to be the Wipeout one. I'm hoping actually I might get that done today, and get that up today as well, but certainly this was the first game that I saw on this sort of rolling demo that they had going on in the shop, and I must have been just sort of stood there for ages watching it, and then just made my mind up at that moment that, right, I'm definitely getting a Sony PlayStation, because up until that point I was going to get the Saturn. And even though this did come out on the Saturn, it didn't come out till a bit later. Say it came out, this came out in 1995 on the PlayStation, but the Saturn one didn't come out till 96, so I didn't even know it was going to come out on there. And at that particular time it was just a case of, right, okay, I've got to get this game. So I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. It's not a detailed review because it's not really a detailed game. It's just quite simple and straightforward, but that's how I like these games. That's what it was all about back then. So anyway, thanks for watching, and as I say, hopefully I'll get the Wipeout review up soon, and that's it. Thanks very much. Bye.